Hello everybody, today we are going to be examining a particular set of two videos. These two videos are by a person of the name XPGoat. These two videos are called Alice in Dreams Analog Horror and Alice in Dreams The Looking Glass Analog Horror. These two videos came out about 9 and 7 months ago, so with the first of the two-part series already having over 300,000 views, I'm sure some YouTubers have come to already talk about it, which is literally exactly how I found it. Wowman made a video on it about 5 months ago, and it inspired me to make a video on it too. If you like the content I upload, you'll definitely like his too. So check him out after the video ends. Please, I need the watch time. Without further ado, let's jump into the first video. The video starts off with Alice looking down a hole. She then proceeds to fall down the hole where she is met into this weird tunnel-like hall. She is seen wearing a mask of a rabbit, which I have no clue where it came from. Then it cuts to Alice removing the mask, which then leads into a scene of a lobotomy. If you guys don't know what a lobotomy is a surgical procedure that was once used to treat mental illness. It involves severing the connections between the frontal lobes of the brain and other parts of the brain, such as the thalamus. Lobotomies were introduced in the late 1930s and stopped really happening in the late 1950s. And only a small percentage of patients, around 20 to 30%, experienced significant improvement in symptoms. Many patients developed severe side effects, such as apathy, lack of motivation, and cognitive impairment. The majority of patients, over 60%, did not improve or even worsened after the procedure. Relapse was common, with many patients returning to their previous symptoms within a few years. Enough of this lesson on lobotomies. After this clip of a lobotomy happening, it switches off to a circus performance. That includes a ballerina, a clown, a lamb, and an elephant, and a bunny. Then everything stops and the clown starts to open its mouth, in a really unnerving way. It's almost kinda uncanny, if that's the word to describe it. Then it switches to Alice looking over this house with some weird looking flowers. Then it switches to this really weird face that says, "I am not falling into a void. Why do I have to swallow these pills? I am not crazy." Then the face distorts and shows Alice looking at the Cheshire Cat, who makes this really creepy laugh, which I will let play here. Then it turns into a really creepy version of itself, and then transitions to Alice closing her eyes, and then to a dancing caterpillar. And then to Alice getting her face removed, hence the thumbnail. After that, her face goes back on, and then it shows this heart staff crown looking thing. I'm not too sure what that is. Then it goes to Alice lying in a bed with the environment being padding and stuff. I think we can assume she was placed in a mental hospital. And then the video ends. Since there really isn't an ending for this video, I feel like we can insinuate that she was most likely placed in the mental hospital after her condition worsened due to the lobotomy. I think that this is what happened because it really plays nice into part 2 of this video, Alice in Dreams The Looking Glass. The video begins with Alice getting the lobotomy. We can tell that this is a lobotomy because they're sticking a sharp instrument toward her eye. It then cuts to an ID of sorts where we can really see who she is. The ID states, Alice Liddell, age 18, condition, schizophrenia. The patient also experienced bouts of violence and dissociation from reality. Lobotomy accepted. The lobotomy seems to have had a positive results for Miss Liddell. Alice Liddell is fit to live with society. Her mental state improved after post-lobotomy treatment. A white rabbit came for her. In this ID, we can confirm that Alice had some sort of medical issue, with this being schizophrenia. During the 1930s to 1950s, lobotomy, a form of psychosurgery, was used to treat schizophrenia, but as you guys know, it's now considered ineffective and ethically questionable. Then the scene transitions to Alice in a house with a little cute cat playing with her feet. Alice stares out the window and then picks up the cat and starts walking, but then she stops. She stops and looks at her reflection in a mirror. She then leans in to touch the mirror, and the scene starts to glitch out, with it showing Alice, her eyes wide, like she's afraid of something. It then cuts to Alice seemingly waking up and taking a drink of what could be medication. Then it cuts to what I would assume to be Alice in a room similar to the one before. She's in a straitjacket with what seems to be blood on a pillow and blood on the floor. Then it cuts to Alice inside of that house again, looking at a weird chess piece with sharp teeth and blood surrounding its mouth. Then cuts to a screen that shows text that says that this is slowly eating you. Then a hole in the wall shows up. Alice closes her eyes and is teleported to a forest. She sees a house off in the distance and goes inside of it. In there are two conjoined girls that have pictures on their faces. Then in front of the girls shows up this box that has curtains or something in it. And inside, the girls show up and start doing this weird dance. Then they split in two, then cuts and shows them with new pictures in front of their face. It seems to be a fleshy face with blood coming down on their clothes. Then cuts to a brain with text that says, "Mutilation is not a cure, it is hell." The brain is then shown split apart with blood all over it. Then it shows Alice and Humpty Dumpty. Then cuts to text that says, "Few warriors remain standing in a battle. You cling to something intangible. Will you be able to create the wall? Only then will you be invincible. Destroy the demon and you will find freedom. Be careful what you face." Then shows Humpty Dumpty with his head split open. Then Alice goes to a castle and shows this lady on the ground with a crown on her head, with blood all over her. Then the lady's head turns into a sheep. I think that's what it is. It has a really long nose, so I'm not too sure what that could be. Then it shows Alice crying, staring at her hands, when in a split second they revert to hooves. They're back to normal. Then it shows this monster elephant snake with horns. I have no idea what to call that, but it's really scary. Then it cuts to Alice, but in dark hair, standing in a room. She looks in the mirror, and her with blonde hair appears. Then a sword appears as well. She is now back to her old self, in armor and holding a sword. She then is shown walking down a staircase with text appearing that says, "Alice went down into the darkest place of mind, the basement of subconsciousness." Alice then sees a girl laying in bed, which I'm pretty sure is her. That weird monster from earlier appears behind her and then cuts to Alice with no mouth, nor nose or eyes, just black holes. Then text appears that says, "Who am I?" Then it shows the girl that was in the bed gone, and then the screen goes black. We can hear gushing noises as the screen cuts to black. Then shows that the monster from earlier is now sliced into pieces. Alice holds the monster's head, wearing a red dress and a crown. Then the video ends. In the end, Alice's journey is a haunting reminder that what we see in the mirror isn't always who we truly are. The trauma and psychological battles she faces distorts her identity, turning her into something almost unrecognizable. But when that reflection begins to crack, and the lines between reality and nightmare blur, it begs the question, how do we truly know where the real us ends, and the horrors we face within ourselves begin? In the search for healing, Alice's story leaves us wondering how much of who we are is shaped by the pain we carry, and what happens when that pain reshapes us into something entirely different.